The peaceful colony. The twin suns of Nova Prime painted the sky in hues of amber and lavender as they dipped below the horizon. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the balcony of her home, nestled in the hills overlooking New Hope, the primary settlement of humanity's farthest colony. The cool evening breeze carried the scent of alien flowers, a constant reminder that this world, beautiful as it was not the Earth she had left behind. Sarah's gaze swept over the bustling town below. Streets lined with a mix of prefab structures and newly constructed buildings pulsed with life. Colonists, some born on Earth and others native to Nova Prime, went about their evening routines. The sight brought a smile to her face. This was what she had fought for during her years in the United Earth Defense Force, a chance for humanity to thrive among the stars. "Mom, check this out." The excited voice of her son, Alex, drew Sarah's attention. The lanky teenager burst onto the balcony, his dark hair tousled and eyes shining with enthusiasm. In his hands, he cradled a device of his own making, a tangle of wires, circuits, and crystals that pulsed with a soft blue light. Sarah raised an eyebrow, her smile widening. "Another breakthrough, kiddo." Alex nodded vigorously. "I think I finally cracked it. This crystal matrix should be able to amplify our long-range communications by at least 300%. We might even be able to send real-time messages back to Earth." Pride swelled in Sarah's chest. At just 16, Alex had already surpassed many of the colony's top scientists in his understanding of xenotech, the hybrid of human and alien technology that was rapidly advancing their capabilities. "That's incredible, Alex. Have you shown Dr. Patel yet?" "Not yet. I wanted you to be the first to see it," Alex replied, his cheeks flushing slightly. Do you think Dad would have been proud?" Sarah's heart clenched at the mention of her late husband. Michael Chen had been one of the colony's founding members, a brilliant engineer who had given his life to protect Nova Prime during its early perilous years. "Oh, Alex," she said softly, pulling her son into a hug. "He would have been over the moon, just like I am." As they embraced, Sarah's gaze drifted to the stars emerging in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, she knew, were other civilizations. Some, like the enigmatic Orans who had provided much of the basis for their xenotech, were peaceful. Others, well, Sarah's years as a soldier had taught her that the galaxy could be a dangerous place. But those thoughts were for another time. Here now, on Nova Prime, they had built something precious. A new beginning for humanity, free from the overcrowding and resource scarcity that had plagued Earth. And Sarah was determined to protect it, even as she had hung up her uniform years ago. "Come on," she said, giving Alex a playful nudge. "Let's head down to the lab. I want to see this marvel of yours in action." As they made their way through the streets of New Hope, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come in just 2 decades. The first wave of colonists had arrived on Nova Prime to find a harsh, unforgiving world. Now, thanks to terraforming technology and sheer human determination, the planet was a paradise. Lush parks dotted the cityscape, filled with a mix of Earth flora and native Nova Priman plants. The air was clean and crisp, purified by massive atmospheric processors. And everywhere, there were signs of a thriving community. Children played in the streets, their laughter a testament to the safety and security they'd achieved. Shops and restaurants buzzed with activity, offering a blend of familiar Earth cuisine and exotic local delicacies. As they passed the central plaza, Sarah and Alex paused to admire the newly erected statue at its center. The monument depicted Michael Chen, along with the other fallen heroes who had given their lives in Nova Prime's early days. The inscription at its base read, "To those who dared to dream and gave all to make that dream a reality." Alex reached out, touching the cool metal of the statue's base. "I wish I had known him better," he said quietly. Sarah placed a hand on her son's shoulder. "He lives on in you, Alex. Every time you push the boundaries of what's possible, every time you dream big, that's pure Michael Chen." They continued on to the research center, a sprawling complex of laboratories and workshops where the colony's brightest minds worked to unlock the secrets of their new home. Dr. Amelia Patel, the head of Nanotechnology Research, greeted them at the entrance. "Sarah, Alex, what brings you two here so late?" the older woman asked, her dark eyes twinkling with curiosity. Alex held up his device, practically bouncing with excitement. "Dr. Patel, I think I've done it. A way to boost our long-range comms using the crystalline structures we found in the northern mountains." Dr. Patel's eyes widened. "Well, don't just stand there, my boy. Let's see it." As Alex eagerly explained his invention to Dr. Patel, Sarah hung back, watching with a mixture of pride and melancholy. Her son was growing up so fast, already making his mark on the colony. It was moments like these that made her miss Michael the most. He should have been here to see this. But even as that familiar ache of loss threatened to surface, Sarah pushed it aside. She had a responsibility to the colony, to Alex, and to Michael's memory. Nova Prime was their future, and she would do everything in her power to ensure it remained bright. Hours later, as they walked home under a canopy of alien stars, Alex couldn't stop talking about the successful test of his device. "Dr. Patel says we might be able to establish a permanent link with Earth by the end of the year," he gushed. "Can you imagine? Real-time communication across light years." Sarah nodded, her mind already racing with the implications. Better communication with Earth meant improved trade, faster technological advancements, and a stronger connection to their homeworld. But it also meant increased scrutiny from the United Earth government, and potentially unwanted attention from less friendly alien races. As if reading her thoughts, Alex's excitement dimmed slightly. "Mom, do you ever worry about what's out there? I mean, we've been lucky so far, but..." Sarah stopped, turning to face her son. In that moment, she saw not just the brilliant young scientist, but also the child who still needed reassurance. "Alex, listen to me. Yes, the galaxy can be a dangerous place, but that's precisely why we're here. Nova Prime isn't just a colony, it's a statement. It's humanity saying that we refuse to be confined to one world, that we have the courage and the will to forge our own destiny among the stars." She gestured to the bustling town around them. "Look at what we've built here. In just 20 years, we've transformed a hostile planet into a thriving world. We've made breakthroughs in science and technology that would have taken centuries back on Earth. That's the power of human ingenuity and determination." Alex nodded slowly, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "And if something does come, we'll be ready, right?" Sarah's hand unconsciously moved to her left forearm, where beneath her skin lay dormant military-grade augmentations, a relic of her days as a UEDF super soldier. "We will," she said firmly. "Nova Prime has some of the best minds humanity has to offer, not to mention a few old soldiers like me. We're not helpless out here." As they resumed their walk home, Sarah's mind drifted to the defense systems quietly humming beneath Nova Prime's peaceful exterior. Orbital platforms capable of detecting approaching ships light years away. A planetary shield that could withstand all but the most determined assaults. And a small but elite security force, mostly comprised of retired UEDF personnel like herself. They were prepared, yes, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their peaceful existence was fragile. The galaxy was vast and largely unknown. Who knew what lurked in the darkness between the stars? Pushing aside her concerns, Sarah focused on the present. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. The hydroponics lab was set to harvest a new strain of crop that could revolutionize their food production. The geology team had discovered promising mineral deposits in the southern hemisphere, and now, with Alex's communication breakthrough, they were on the cusp of a new era of interstellar cooperation. As they reached their home, Sarah paused to take in the view one last time. The lights of New Hope twinkled below, a beacon of human achievement on this alien world. Whatever the future held, she knew that the spirit that had brought them here, the unquenchable human desire to explore, to innovate, to overcome, would see them through. "Come on, Alex," she said, putting an arm around her son's shoulders. "We've got a big day ahead of us tomorrow. Nova Prime's not going to explore itself. As they stepped inside, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Yes, the unknown could be frightening, but it was also filled with infinite possibilities. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was turning possibilities into realities. The door closed behind them, shutting out the alien night. But in labs and workshops across New Hope, lights burned late into the night as humanity's best and brightest worked tirelessly to unlock the secrets of their new home. Nova Prime slept, but its spirit of adventure and discovery never rested. Little did they know, far beyond the reach of their most powerful senses, events were unfolding that would soon test the mettle of every soul on Nova Prime. The peaceful days of the colony were numbered, and Sarah Chen would soon be called upon to become the warrior she had once been, not just for the sake of her son or her fellow colonists, but for the very future of humanity among the stars. First contact gone wrong. The morning dawned bright and clear on Nova Prime, the twin suns casting a golden glow over New Hope. Sarah Chen stood in the colony's central command center, her eyes fixed on a large holographic display dominating the room. Red warning indicators blinked ominously, signaling an unexpected development that had the entire command staff on edge. "Report," Sarah ordered, her voice calm but taut with tension. Dr. Amelia Patel, looking haggard after a sleepless night, stepped forward. At 300 hours, our long-range sensors detected an anomaly at the edge of the system. We initially thought it was a glitch, possibly caused by Alex's new communication array, but she paused, taking a deep breath. "It's a ship, Commander. A big one, and it's not answering any of our hails." Sarah's mind raced. In the 2 decades since Nova Prime's founding, they'd had limited contact with other spacefaring races. The Aurons, their allies and trading partners, always announced their arrivals well in advance. This was something new, something potentially dangerous. "Time to intercept?" Sarah asked, slipping effortlessly back into her role as a military commander. "At its current speed, the vessel will reach Nova Prime's orbit in approximately 6 hours," replied Captain Jared Hicks, the colony's head of security. Sarah nodded, her decision made. "Initiate Protocol Omega. I want all non-essential personnel in the shelters within the hour. Captain Hicks, bring our defensive systems to full readiness. But do not, I repeat, do not take any aggressive actions unless directly threatened." As the command center burst into activity, Sarah felt a familiar sensation creeping through her body. The military-grade augmentations in her system, dormant for years, were reactivating in response to her elevated stress levels. Enhanced strength flowed into her muscles, while her neural processors kicked into overdrive, analyzing countless tactical scenarios. "Mom." Alex's voice cut through the chaos. Sarah turned to see her son standing in the doorway, his face pale with worry. "What's happening?" Sarah crossed the room, placing her hands on Alex's shoulders. "We've got an unidentified ship approaching, kiddo. It's probably nothing to worry about, but we're taking precautions. I need you to go home and stay there until I come for you, okay?" Alex's eyes widened with a mix of fear and excitement. "But Mom, I can help. My communication array." "Alex," Sarah cut him off, her voice firm but gentle. "I really want to help, and I'm proud of you for that. But right now, the best thing you can do is stay safe. Please, go home. I'll update you as soon as I can." Reluctantly, Alex nodded and left. As Sarah watched him go, she silently prayed that this would all turn out to be a false alarm. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. The colony's defenses were brought online, civilian shelters were filled, and every attempt was made to communicate with the approaching vessel. But as the ship drew closer, a sense of dread settled over the command center. "Visual contact in 3, 2, 1, Captain Hicks announced. The holographic display flickered, then resolved into an image that made Sarah's blood run cold. The alien ship was massive, easily dwarfing anything in humanity's fleet. Its design was angular and predatory, bristling with what were unmistakably weapon emplacements. "By all that's holy," Dr. Patel whispered. "What are they?" Before anyone could respond, the display crackled with static. A harsh, guttural voice filled the command center, speaking in a language none of them recognized. But the tone was unmistakable. It was a demand. "Run it through the xenolinguistic database," Sarah ordered, "and keep trying to establish a peaceful dialogue." Minutes ticked by as the alien ship entered orbit, its imposing presence casting a literal and figurative shadow over Nova Prime. Finally, the computer chimed. "Translation complete," it announced. "Warning, 85% accuracy. Message reads, 'Inferior species, your world is now property of the Zarkan Empire. Surrender and submit to relocation or face eradication.'" A heavy silence fell over the command center. Sarah felt the weight of every life on Nova Prime pressing down on her shoulders. They were vastly outgunned, with no hope of reinforcements from Earth, but the thought of surrendering their hard-won home was unthinkable. "Open a channel," Sarah said, her voice steady. "I'll speak to them myself." As the communication link was established, Sarah straightened her posture, channeling every ounce of authority she possessed. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the human colony Nova Prime. We mean you no harm, but we will not surrender our home. We request peaceful dialogue to resolve this situation." The response was immediate and violent. A beam of searing energy lanced down from the Zarkan ship, striking the planet's defensive shield. The entire colony shook with the impact. "Shields holding at 82%, Captain Hicks reported. But we can't take many more hits like that." Sarah's augmentations went into overdrive, tactical scenarios flashing through her mind. "Initiate defense pattern Delta. Return fire, but target their weapon systems only. We need to show them we're not helpless without escalating to full-scale war." Nova Prime's defensive platforms came to life, returning fire with pinpoint accuracy. The Zarkan ship's shields flared under the assault but held. "Commander," Dr. Patel called out, her voice tight with fear. "I'm detecting multiple smaller craft launching from the main ship. They're heading for the surface." Sarah's heart raced. The colony's outer regions were still being evacuated. If the Zarkan landed troops, "Captain Hicks, mobilize our security forces, protect the civilians at all costs." As the battle raged in orbit and the first Zarkan landing craft pierced the atmosphere, Sarah's thoughts turned to Alex. She had to get to him, to make sure he was safe. "Dr. Patel, you have command here. Keep me updated on any developments. I'm heading out to coordinate our ground defense." Sarah raced through the streets of New Hope, the sounds of panic and distant explosions filling the air. Her augmented muscles propelled her forward at inhuman speeds, dodging fleeing colonists and leaping over debris. As she neared her home, a terrifying sight stopped her in her tracks. A Zarkan landing craft had touched down in the central plaza, disgorging alien warriors. They were tall, reptilian creatures with armored exoskeletons and weapons that crackled with energy. And there, in the middle of the chaos, was Alex. Her son stood frozen in fear as a Zarkan warrior advanced on him, weapon raised. Time seemed to slow for Sarah. Her augmentations kicked into maximum overdrive, flooding her system with combat stimulants. With a primal scream of rage and terror, she launched herself at the alien threatening her child. The Zarkan warrior turned, surprised by the sudden attack. But its reflexes were no match for Sarah's augmented speed. She slammed into the alien with bone-crushing force, sending it flying. "Alex, run!" Sarah yelled, engaging the other Zarkan troops. Her fists and feet became blurs of motion, years of combat training combining with superhuman enhancements to create a whirlwind of destruction. But the Zarkan were formidable opponents. For every alien she took down, 2 more seemed to take its place. And Alex wasn't running. "Mom, look out," her son's voice rang out. Sarah turned just in time to see a Zarkan warrior leveling its weapon at her. She dove to the side, the energy blast searing the air where she had been standing. but her evasion brought her face to face with a horrifying sight. Another Zarkan had seized Alex, its clawed hand wrapped around her son's throat. Sarah's blood ran cold as she saw the alien's weapon press against Alex's temple. No! The word tore from Sarah's throat, a primal cry of desperation. She took a step forward, but froze as the Zarkan tightened its grip on Alex. The alien spoke, its words translated by Sarah's neural implant: "Surrender, human, or watch your offspring die." Time stood still. Sarah's mind raced, searching for a solution, a way out. But there was none. With agonizing slowness, she raised her hands in surrender. But the Zarkan were formidable opponents. For every alien she took down, two more seemed to take its place. And Alex wasn't running. "Mom, look out," her son's voice rang out. Sarah turned just in time to see a Zarkan warrior leveling its weapon at her. She dove to the side, the energy blast searing the air where she had been standing. But her evasion brought her face to face with a horrifying sight. Another Zarkan had seized Alex, its clawed hand wrapped around her son's throat. Sarah's blood ran cold as she saw the alien's weapon press against Alex's temple. No! The word tore from Sarah's throat, a primal cry of desperation. She took a step forward, but froze as the Zarkan tightened its grip on Alex. The alien spoke, its words translated by Sarah's neural implant: "Surrender, human, or watch your offspring die." Time stood still. Sarah's mind raced, searching for a solution, a way out. But there was none. With agonizing slowness, she raised her hands in surrender. "Please," she begged, all pretense of military stoicism gone. "Let him go. I'll do anything." The Zarkan warrior tilted its head, studying her with cold, reptilian eyes. For a moment, Sarah dared to hope. Then, with a casual flick of its wrist, the alien fired its weapon. Alex's body crumpled to the ground, a smoking hole where his brilliant mind had been. The world went silent for Sarah. She couldn't hear the continuing battle, couldn't feel the wounds she had sustained. All she could see was her son's lifeless form. All she could feel was a void opening up inside her, threatening to consume everything. Then, like a supernova, that void exploded outward in a wave of pure, unrestrained rage. Sarah moved without conscious thought, her augmentations pushing her body beyond its limits. She tore through the Zarkan warriors like they were made of paper, heedless of the energy blasts that scored her flesh. Bones shattered under her fists, alien blood stained the plaza's stones. When it was over, Sarah stood alone among the broken bodies of the Zarkan landing party. Her wounds were severe, her augmentations dangerously overclocked. But none of that mattered. She knelt beside Alex's body, gathering him in her arms. As she held her son close one last time, Sarah Chen made a vow. The Zarkan would pay for this. Not just for Alex, but for every life they had threatened on Nova Prime. She would make them regret the day they ever set foot in this star system. As if in response to her oath, the ground shook with another impact. Sarah looked up to see more Zarkan landing craft descending from the sky. The battle for Nova Prime was far from over. Gently laying Alex's body down, Sarah stood. The grief and rage within her crystallized into cold, implacable resolve. She was no longer just Sarah Chen, retired commander and grieving mother. She was vengeance incarnate, humanity's wrath given form. As she strode towards the new wave of invaders, Sarah's neural implant crackled with an incoming transmission from the command center. "Commander Chen," Dr. Patel's voice was strained but determined. "We've managed to breach their communication encryption. We're gathering crucial intelligence on the Zarkan fleet, but we need time." Sarah's response was cold, uncertain. "You'll have it." The Zarkan had made a fatal error. They had come to Nova Prime expecting to find a weak, easily subjugated species. Instead, they had awakened a force they could never have anticipated. Sarah Chen, and through her, all of humanity, would show these aliens the true meaning of terror. As she engaged the next group of Zarkan warriors, a chilling smile played across Sarah's blood-stained face. The real battle was just beginning. The awakening of a warrior. The skies over Nova Prime blazed with the fury of battle. Zarkan dropships continued to breach the atmosphere, while the colony's orbital defenses fought desperately to stem the tide. On the ground, chaos reigned as colonists fled and security forces engaged the alien invaders. At the heart of this maelstrom stood Sarah Chen, a whirlwind of destruction. Her augmentations pushed her body to its absolute limits, allowing her to move with inhuman speed and strike with devastating force. Zarkan warriors fell before her, their advanced weaponry and armor proving insufficient against her rage-fueled assault. But even as she fought, a part of Sarah's mind remained coldly analytical. She knew that her current actions, while cathartic, were ultimately futile. The Zarkan forces were too numerous, their technology too advanced. To save Nova Prime, to avenge Alex, she needed a new strategy. Dr. Petal, Sarah called through her neural link as she dispatched another alien warrior. Status report. The scientist's voice came through, tense but controlled. We've made progress decrypting their communications, Commander. The Zarkan fleet is larger than we initially thought, but most of their ships are still at the edge of the system. This is just their first wave. Sarah ducked under an energy blast, her augmented reflexes allowing her to see the searing beam pass by in slow motion. Any weaknesses we can exploit? Possibly, Patel replied. Their ships seem to rely on a centralized command structure. If we could disrupt that— Understood, Sarah said, her mind already formulating a plan. Keep working on it. I'm heading back to the command center. As Sarah fought her way through the streets of New Hope, she saw the true cost of the invasion. Bodies of colonists and Zarkan alike littered the ground. Buildings that had stood as testaments to human ingenuity now smoldered in ruins. The dream they had built on Nova Prime was crumbling before her eyes. But amidst the destruction, Sarah also saw hope. Colonists were fighting back with whatever they had at hand. She saw farmers using plasma cutters as improvised weapons, engineers reeling up force field traps, and even children leading the alien warriors into ambushes. The human spirit, that indomitable will to survive and thrive against all odds, was on full display. It steeled Sarah's resolve. They would not go quietly. Nova Prime would not fall. Reaching the command center, Sarah found it a hive of frantic activity. Dr. Patel and her team were hunched over consoles, sifting through the torrent of decrypted Zarkan communications. Captain Hicks coordinated the planet's defenses, his face grim as he watched the tactical displays. Commander on deck. Someone called out, and all activity momentarily ceased as every eye turned to Sarah. She knew she must have been a frightening sight, her uniform torn and bloodied, her eyes blazing with an inner fire, the aftermath of battle etched into every line of her face. But she also saw something else in the eyes of her people— hope. Listen up, Sarah said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. The Zarkan thought they could come here and take our home from us. They thought we would roll over and submit to their so-called empire. Her voice hardened. They were wrong. She strode to the central holographic display, calling up an image of the Zarkan fleet. This is not just an invasion, it's an opportunity. An opportunity to show the galaxy that humanity will not be pushed aside, that we are a force to be reckoned with. Sarah turned to Dr. Patel. You said their command structure was centralized. Explain. The scientist nodded, pulling up a schematic of a Zarkan vessel. Their ships operate on a hive mind-like system. Each vessel is connected to a central command ship that coordinates their actions. If we could disrupt that connection, we could throw their entire fleet into disarray, Sarah finished. A plan was forming in her mind, audacious and desperate in equal measure. What about their ground forces? Captain Hicks spoke up. Similar principle, Commander. They're receiving orders from a forward command post, likely on one of the larger dropships. Sarah's eyes narrowed as she considered their options. They couldn't hope to defeat the Zarkan in a straight fight, but if they could cut off the head of the snake... "All right, here's the plan," she said, her voice filled with grim determination. "We're going to launch a two-pronged assault. Captain Hicks, I want you to gather every able-bodied colonist who can fight. We're going to hit that forward command post with everything we've got." Hicks nodded, a fierce grin spreading across his face. "It'll be a slaughter, Commander, but not for us." Sarah turned to Dr. Patel. "While we've got them distracted on the ground, I need you to get me on that command ship." A hush fell over the command center. What Sarah was proposing was nothing short of suicidal. Even with her augmentations, infiltrating the heart of the Zarkan fleet seemed impossible. Dr. Patel was the first to speak. "Commander, Sarah, that's a one-way trip." Sarah's eyes flicked to the image of Alex that she kept in a small holoprojector on her wrist. "Maybe," she said softly. Then, her voice hardening, "but if that's what it takes to save Nova Prime, to save humanity's future among the stars, then so be it." She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each person present. "I'm not ordering anyone to follow me. This mission is volunteer only. But know this, what we do here today will echo through history. We have a chance to show the Zarkan, and any other race that might be watching, that humanity is not to be trifled with." For a moment, there was silence. Then, one by one, every person in the command center stood at attention. Captain Hicks was the first to speak. "We're with you, Commander, all the way." Sarah felt a swell of pride. This was humanity at its best, facing impossible odds with courage and determination. "All right, people, let's show these alien bastards what we're made of. Dr. Patel, you have 1 hour to figure out how to get me on that command ship. Captain Hicks, assemble your assault team. The rest of you, do whatever you can to support both operations. Move out." As the command center erupted into action, Sarah took a moment to center herself. She closed her eyes, focusing on the steady thrum of her augmentations. They had been pushed to their limits during the ground battle, but for what was to come, she would need even more. Sarah accessed the deepest levels of her neural implant, areas that had been locked away since her retirement. Emergency protocols, designed for the direst of circumstances, waited for her activation. With a thought, she initiated them. Pain lanced through her body as her augmentations kicked into overdrive. Muscles densified, bones reinforced themselves, and her neural processes accelerated to speeds that bordered on precognition. She could feel her humanity slipping away, replaced by something colder, harder, more machine than woman. But Sarah embraced the change. To save Nova Prime, to avenge Alex, she would sacrifice everything, even her own humanity. When she opened her eyes, the world seemed sharper, clearer. She could perceive details that had been invisible before, could calculate trajectories and probabilities in the blink of an eye. She was no longer just Sarah Chen. She was the pinnacle of human military engineering, a weapon honed to lethal perfection. Dr. Patel approached, her eyes widening as she took in Sarah's transformation. "Commander, we found a way. It's risky, but..." "Tell me," Sarah said, her voice carrying a metallic undertone. As Patel explained the plan, Sarah's enhanced mind was already running simulations, calculating odds, finding optimizations. It was insane, borderline impossible, but it was also their only chance. "Do it," Sarah ordered. The next hour passed in a blur of preparations. Colonial engineers worked feverishly to modify a short-range shuttle, reinforcing its hull and upgrading its stealth systems. Sarah underwent final calibrations on her augmentations, pushing them to limits that would have killed an unmodified human. As the deadline approached, Sarah stood before the assembled assault team. Colonists from all walks of life had answered the call. Farmers stood shoulder to shoulder with scientists, wielding a motley assortment of weapons, both human and salvaged Zarkan tech. "Today, we fight not just for Nova Prime, but for the very future of humanity among the stars," Sarah began, her amplified voice carrying across the gathering. The Zarkhan thought us weak, thought us easy prey. Today, we prove them wrong. She paused, looking out at the sea of determined faces. Some of us may not return from this battle, but know this, your sacrifices will not be in vain. Today, we send a message to the Zarkhan and any other race that might threaten us. Humanity will not go quietly. We will fight, we will endure, and we will triumph. A roar of approval went up from the crowd. Sarah nodded to Captain Hicks, who began organizing the assault teams. Then, with a final look at the colony she had helped build, Sarah made her way to the modified shuttle. Dr. Patel was waiting for her, concern etched on her face. The plan is set, Commander. Once you're inside their command ship, you'll have approximately 10 minutes before their systems detect the intrusion. After that, I'll make every second count, Sarah assured her. She clasped the scientist's shoulder. Keep them safe, Amelia. Whatever happens up there, Nova Prime is humanity's future. Protect it. Patel nodded, tears in her eyes. Godspeed, Sarah. As Sarah strapped herself into the shuttle, her enhanced mind was already plotting out every possible scenario. The odds were stacked against her, but she had long ago learned that humanity's greatest strength lay in defying those odds. The shuttle's engines ignited, lifting it off the launch pad. As it rose through Nova Prime's atmosphere, Sarah caught a final glimpse of the colony below. New Hope was scarred but not broken, its people rallying to defend their home. This is for you, Alex, Sarah whispered as the shuttle broke through the upper atmosphere on a collision course with destiny. For all of us. The battle for Nova Prime's future had begun in earnest, and at its heart, a mother's grief transformed into a warrior's resolve would decide the fate of not just a colony, but potentially the course of human history among the stars. As the shuttle accelerated towards the Zarkhan fleet, Sarah Chen, once a commander, then a grieving mother, and now humanity's last, best hope, prepared herself for the fight of her life. The Zarkhan were about to learn a harsh lesson. Never underestimate the lengths to which a human will go to protect what they love. Counterattack. The vastness of space stretched out before Sarah Chen as her modified shuttle hurtled towards the Zarkhan fleet. The colonial engineers had done their job well. The small craft's stealth systems rendered it nearly invisible to the alien sensors. But Sarah knew that their window of opportunity was painfully small. Her augmented senses took in every detail of the alien armada. The Zarkhan ships were a terrifying sight, massive, angular vessels bristling with weaponry. At the heart of the fleet floated the command ship, a behemoth easily 10 times the size of the others. Sarah's neural processors calculated trajectories and vectors at inhuman speeds. The plan was audacious. She would use the ongoing space battle as cover, slipping past the Zarkhan's outer defenses and crash-landing directly into the command ship's hangar bay. As she neared the fleet, Sarah opened a secure channel to Nova Prime. Chen to ground control. Operation Trojan Horse is a go. Commencing radio silence. Dr. Patel's voice came through, tense but determined. Understood, Commander. The ground assault is about to begin. Good luck, and come back to us. With a grim smile, Sarah cut the communication. From this point on, she was on her own. The shuttle dove into the chaotic melee of the space battle. Energy beams and missiles crisscrossed the void, while debris from destroyed ships created a deadly obstacle course. Sarah's augmented reflexes were pushed to their limits as she wove through the destruction. A stray shot from a Zarkhan cruiser clipped the shuttle's wing, sending it into a spin. Sarah's muscles strained against the G-forces as she fought to regain control. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed like the mission would end before it even truly began. But Sarah was not about to let Alex's death be in vain. With a combination of skill and sheer determination, she stabilized the craft. The command ship loomed before her, its hangar bay opening to receive returning fighters. "Here goes nothing," Sarah muttered, pushing the shuttle's engines to their maximum. The small craft shot forward, slipping past the Zarkan's defensive screen. Alarms blared as the aliens finally detected the intruder, but it was too late. Sarah's shuttle crashed through the atmospheric barrier of the hangar bay, skidding across the deck in a shower of sparks before slamming into a row of parked Zarkan fighters. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, with a hiss of hydraulics, the shuttle's hatch blew open. Sarah emerged, her body already healing from the impact thanks to her augmentations. She took in the scene with analytical precision. Zarkan crew members were rushing towards her, weapons raised. Sarah didn't give them a chance to fire. She moved with blinding speed, her fists and feet becoming blur as she tore through the alien ranks. As she fought, Sarah's enhanced mind was already plotting her next move. She needed to reach the ship's central control room and disable their command systems. According to the intelligence they had gathered, it should be located at the heart of the vessel. Grabbing a fallen Zarkan's weapon, Sarah blasted her way out of the hangar bay. The ship's corridors were a maze of alien architecture, but her neural implant quickly constructed a mental map based on observed patterns and logical deductions. Alarms blared throughout the ship as Sarah fought her way deeper into its bowels. The Zarkan threw everything they had at her: elite guards, automated defense systems, even localized gravity fluctuations. But Sarah's augmented body and tactical genius allowed her to overcome each obstacle. As she neared the central control room, Sarah's comlink crackled to life. Captain Hicks' voice came through, punctuated by the sounds of battle. "Commander, we've engaged the forward command post. The bastards are putting up one hell of a fight, but we're holding our own. How's your end?" Sarah ducked under an energy blast, returning fire with deadly accuracy. "Making progress, Captain. Keep them distracted down there. I'm almost at the command center." With a final burst of superhuman effort, Sarah broke through the last line of Zarkan defenders. The doors to the central control room loomed before her, a massive barrier of alien alloys and energy fields. Sarah's augmentations kicked into overdrive, flooding her system with combat stimulants. With a primal roar, she charged at the door, her body becoming a living battering ram. The impact was tremendous. For a moment, it seemed like even Sarah's enhanced strength wouldn't be enough. Then, with a screech of protesting metal, the doors gave way. Sarah stumbled into the control room, her vision blurring from the exertion. As it cleared, she found herself face to face with the Zarkan command staff. At their center stood a figure that could only be their leader, taller than the others, with ornate armor and a cruel intelligence burning in its alien eyes. "So," the Zarkan leader spoke, its words translated by Sarah's neural implant. "The primitives and their champion. Impressive for such an inferior species, but futile." Sarah's eyes narrowed as she assessed the situation. The control room was filled with advanced technology, holographic displays showing the battle raging both in space and on Nova Prime's surface. She needed to disable their command systems, but the Zarkan leader stood between her and her goal. "You made a mistake coming here," Sarah said, her voice cold with fury. "You killed my son, threatened my home. For that, your entire empire will pay." The Zarkan leader tilted its head, a gesture almost like curiosity. "You speak boldly for one about to die, but I admit your species has proven interesting. Perhaps we will keep a few of you as study subjects before we cleanse your world." Sarah's response was a blur of motion. She launched herself at the Zarkan leader, her augmented muscles propelling her across the room faster than the alien's eyes could follow. The two crashed together in a fury of strikes and counterstrikes. The Zarkan leader was a formidable opponent, its natural abilities enhanced by advanced armor. But Sarah was fighting for more than just her life. She fought for Alex, for Nova Prime, for the very future of humanity. As they battled, Sarah's enhanced senses took in every detail of the control room. She noted the positions of key systems, plotting out a strategy even as she fought for her life. With a powerful kick, Sarah sent the Zarkan leader stumbling back. In that brief moment of reprieve, she made her move. Racing to the central console, Sarah plunged her hands into the alien interface. Pain lanced through her body as her neural implants connected with the Zarkan systems. It was like trying to process an alien language with her very neurons. But Sarah pushed through the agony, her iron will bending the ship's systems to her command. "What are you doing?" The Zarkan leader roared, charging at her. Sarah turned, a fierce grin on her face despite the blood trickling from her nose. Ending this, she snarled. With a final Herculean effort, Sarah executed her plan. The ship's systems went haywire. Encrypted commands flooded out to the rest of the Zarkan fleet, sowing chaos and confusion. The Zarkan leader reached her, its clawed hand closing around her throat, but it was too late. On every display in the control room, the effects of Sarah's attack were clear. Zarkan ships were firing on each other, their coordinated assault falling apart. "You've doomed us all," the alien leader howled. Sarah met its gaze, unflinching. "No," she said, her voice hoarse but triumphant. "I saved my people, and taught yours a lesson you won't soon forget." With a final surge of strength, Sarah broke free of the alien's grasp. Her fist connected with its head with augmented force, sending the Zarkan leader crashing to the ground. As alarms blared throughout the ship, Sarah staggered to a communication terminal. She had to warn Nova Prime, had to make sure her sacrifice wasn't in vain. "Chen to Nova Prime," she gasped, her body starting to shut down from the strain. "Mission accomplished. The Zarkan fleet is in disarray. Finish this." Dr. Patel's voice came through, filled with a mix of joy and concern. "Sarah, thank God. We're seeing it now. Their ships are turning on each other. But you need to get out of there." Sarah looked around the chaos of the control room, a sad smile on her face. "No time for that, old friend. Just promise me you'll keep fighting. Don't let them forget what happened here." Before Patel could respond, Sarah cut the communication. She turned to face the viewport, watching as the once mighty Zarkan fleet tore itself apart. On the surface of Nova Prime, the tide of battle had turned. With their command structure in chaos, the Zarkan ground forces fell into disarray. Captain Hicks and the colonial defenders pressed their advantage, pushing the aliens back. Sarah sank to her knees, her augmentations finally reaching their limit. As the command ship shuddered around her, alarms warning of imminent core breach, she pulled out the small holoprojector with Alex's image. "We did it, kiddo," she whispered, her vision blurring. "We showed them. Humanity's here to stay." As consciousness faded, Sarah's last thoughts were of Nova Prime, of the bustling streets of New Hope, of the determined faces of the colonists who had become her family. They would endure, they would rebuild, and they would remember. The Zarkan command ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, visible even from the surface of Nova Prime. On the planet below, cheers erupted as the colonists realized their victory. But in the command center, Dr. Patel stood silent, tears streaming down her face as she stared at the place in the sky where Sarah Chen had made her final stand. "She did it," Captain Hicks said softly, limping into the room. "The Zarkan are in full retreat. Nova Prime is safe." Patel nodded, unable to speak. After a moment, she squared her shoulders, wiping away her tears. There would be time to mourn later. Now they had a colony to rebuild and a legacy to honor. "Send out the call," she said, her voice strong despite her grief. "To every human world and outpost. Tell them what happened here. Tell them about Sarah Chen and how one woman's courage saved not just a colony, but perhaps all of humanity." As the message went out, carried on subspace channels to the far corners of human-controlled space, a new chapter in humanity's story among the stars began. The Zarkan had come to Nova Prime expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. Humanity would not forget the lessons of this day. They would mourn their dead, rebuild their homes, and prepare for whatever challenges the galaxy might throw at them next. But they would face those challenges united, inspired by the sacrifice of Sarah Chen and all those who had fought to defend Nova Prime. The battle was over. The Zarkhan were defeated. But for humanity, the true journey was just beginning. Triumph of humanity. The twin suns of Nova Prime rose over a changed world. The scars of battle were etched across the landscape, craters where Zarkhan weapons had struck, the twisted wreckage of alien dropships scattered across once pristine fields. But amidst the destruction, there was an undeniable energy in the air, a sense of triumph, of possibility, of a future reclaimed. In the command center of New Hope, Dr. Amelia Patel stood before a holographic display of the planet and its surrounding space. The Zarkhan fleet was gone, having fled the system in disarray after the destruction of their command ship, but the cost of victory had been high. Captain Hicks limped into the room, his face haggard, but his eyes bright with determination. "Final casualty reports are in, Doctor," he said, his voice gruff with emotion. "We lost nearly a third of the colony's population, but it could have been much worse." Patel nodded sullenly. "And Sarah?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Hicks shook his head. "No sign of her. The Zarkhan command ship was completely destroyed. There's no way she could have survived that." A heavy silence fell over the room, broken only by the soft beeping of computer consoles. Sarah Chen's sacrifice had saved them all. The loss of such a remarkable individual was a blow that would be felt for generations. "We need to make sure her sacrifice wasn't in vain," Patel said finally, her voice firm with resolve. "Sarah gave everything to protect Nova Prime, to protect humanity's future among the stars. We owe it to her to build something worthy of that sacrifice." Hicks nodded in agreement. "What do you propose?" Patel turned to the holographic display, expanding it to show the entire sector of space around Nova Prime. "We send out the call to every human colony, every outpost, every ship. We tell them what happened here. We show them that humanity can stand up to any threat, no matter how overwhelming it might seem." As if on cue, the communications array lit up. Messages were pouring in from across human space. News of the battle had spread faster than they could have imagined, carried by automated beacons and desperate refugees who had fled the initial Zarkhan assault. "It's not just messages," one of the technicians called out, his voice filled with wonder. "We're picking up ship signatures. Lots of them. They're coming to help." The holographic display flickered, showing a wave of approaching vessels. Freighters laden with supplies, hospital ships ready to treat the wounded, and more than a few armed craft, their captains eager to take the fight to any remaining Zarkhan forces. Patel felt a lump form in her throat. This was humanity at its best, coming together in the face of adversity, reaching out to help those in need. It was everything Sarah had fought for. "All right, people," Hicks called out, his voice carrying the authority of command. "Let's get to work. We've got a colony to rebuild and a lot of people coming to help. Let's show them what Nova Prime is made of." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. As ships arrived from across human space, New Hope transformed into a bustling hub of reconstruction efforts. The destroyed buildings were cleared away, making room for new structures that combined the best of human engineering with lessons learned from the Zarkhan attack. But it wasn't just the physical reconstruction that occupied the colonists. There was a new sense of purpose, a determination to honor the sacrifices made during the battle. Sarah Chen's story spread like wildfire, inspiring not just those on Nova Prime, but humans across the galaxy. 1 month after the battle, a ceremony was held in the newly rebuilt Central Plaza of New Hope. A monument had been erected, a towering spire of iridescent crystal, mined from the very mountains where Alex Chen had made his fateful discovery. At its base, a holographic projection showed the faces of those lost in the battle, with Sarah and Alex Chen given a place of prominence. As the colonists gathered, joined now by representatives from other human worlds, Dr. Patel stepped up to address the crowd. 1 month ago, she began, her voice carried across the plaza by hidden speakers, we faced annihilation. The Zarkhan came to our world, believing us to be easy prey. They thought they would find a weak, divided species, ripe for conquest. She paused, her eyes scanning the sea of faces before her. Instead, they found humanity. They found our strength, our resilience, our unbreakable spirit. They found Sarah Chen. A murmur went through the crowd at the mention of Sarah's name. Many of those present had never met her, but all knew her story. Sarah Chen was a mother, a soldier, a protector, Pertel continued. When faced with overwhelming odds, she did not falter. She showed us that one person, driven by love and an unwavering commitment to what's right, can change the course of history. Patel gestured to the monument behind her. This memorial stands not just to honor our fallen, but to remind us of what we're capable of. The Zarkhan thought they were coming to end humanity's journey among the stars. Instead, they've only hastened its beginning. As Patel spoke, news was spreading across human space. The United Earth government, galvanized by the events on Nova Prime, had announced a massive expansion of their space exploration and colonization programs. New ships were being built, faster and more advanced than ever before. The attack had awoken humanity to the dangers that lurked in the depths of space, but also to the incredible potential that awaited them. Today, Patel said, her voice rising with emotion, we send a message to the galaxy. Humanity will not cower in the face of threats. We will not abandon our dreams of reaching for the stars. We will learn, we will grow, and we will extend a hand of friendship to those who would be our allies. She paused, her expression hardening slightly. But to those who would threaten us, who would seek to extinguish the light of human potential, know this. We are no longer an isolated species confined to a single world. We are humanity united, and we will not go quietly into the night. A cheer went up from the crowd, a sound of defiance and hope that seemed to shake the very foundations of New Hope. As it faded, Patel concluded her speech. Let the sacrifice of Sarah Chen, of all those we lost, inspire us to be better, to push further, to dream bigger, to reach higher than we ever thought possible. The galaxy awaits us. Let's show it what humanity can do. As the ceremony concluded, the impact of Nova Prime's stand against the Zarkhan was already rippling across human space. On Earth, military strategists pored over the data from the battle, developing new technologies and tactics to defend against future threats. Scientists threw themselves into understanding the Zarkhan technology left behind, making leaps in fields ranging from energy production to faster-than-light travel. But perhaps the most profound change was in the human spirit itself. The story of Nova Prime, of Sarah Chen's sacrifice, and the colony's triumph against overwhelming odds had captured the imagination of billions. A new era of exploration and expansion began, driven by a combination of cautious preparedness and unbridled optimism. In the years that followed, humanity's reach extended further into the galaxy. New colonies were established, each one a testament to the lessons learned on Nova Prime. Defense grids were built, capable of repelling attacks far greater than what the Zarkhan had brought to bear. But alongside the military advancements came a renewed commitment to peaceful exploration and scientific discovery. 5 years after the battle, a breakthrough was made. A team of xenolinguists, inspired by Sarah Chen's final connection with the Zarkhan systems, managed to fully decode the alien language. This led to the first tentative communications with the Zarkhan Empire. To the surprise of many, the Zarkhan responded not with renewed hostility, but with cautious respect. The defeat at Nova Prime had shaken their belief in their own superiority, opening the door to diplomatic relations. While tensions remained high, the threat of all-out war gradually faded, replaced by an uneasy detente. 10 years after the battle, Nova Prime had been transformed. No longer just a distant colony, it had become a shining beacon of human achievement. The planet's unique crystal formations, once seen as merely a scientific curiosity, were now the cornerstone of a new form of faster-than-light communication. Ships from across human space and beyond came to trade, to learn, and to marvel at what had been built from the ashes of near destruction. On the 10th anniversary of the battle, a special ceremony was held. The holographic memorial in the central plaza was updated, now showing not just those lost in the fight against the Zarkhan, but the incredible progress humanity had made since. As Dr. Petal, now Governor Petal, stood before the assembled crowd, she couldn't help but think of Sarah Chen. What would she think of all they had accomplished? Of the new era of human expansion and discovery her sacrifice had ushered in? 10 years ago, Petal began, her voice carrying the weight of a decade's worth of triumphs and challenges. We stood on the brink of annihilation. Today, we stand at the forefront of a new age of human achievement. She gestured to the stars above, visible even in the daylight through Nova Prime's crystalline atmosphere. Out there, countless worlds await us. Some may hold wonders beyond our imagination. Others may present challenges we can scarcely comprehend. But whatever we find, we face it not as a single colony, not even as a single planet, but as humanity united. Petal's gaze swept over the crowd, taking in the faces of not just humans, but representatives from a dozen alien races, allies and trading partners made in the wake of the Zarkhan attack. Sarah Chen showed us what one person could do in the face of impossible odds. Together, there is no challenge we cannot overcome, no frontier we cannot explore. The Battle of Nova Prime was not the end of our story, it was just the beginning. As Petal's words faded, a new hologram appeared above the memorial. It showed a fleet of sleek ships, emblazoned with the logo of the newly formed United Human Exploration Corps. These vessels, more advanced than anything humanity had built before, were preparing to push beyond the boundaries of known space. Their mission: to seek out new life, new civilizations, to boldly go where no human had gone before. And at the heart of the fleet, leading the charge into the unknown, was a ship named in honor of the woman who had made it all possible. The UHE Chen, humanity's flagship, prepared to make the jump to faster-than-light travel. As it disappeared in a flash of light, carrying the hopes and dreams of billions, the spirit of Sarah Chen lived on. Her sacrifice had not just saved a colony, it had launched humanity into a new era of exploration, discovery, and limitless potential. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity.